everybody, and welcome to the Elseworlds Exchange. I'm Sal.
It's time to get things started on the Elseworld Exchange tonight. I'm Joel.
They're not in production anymore. That show got canceled, so we're good.
Did it really, like, after one season? Because I watched the first season. I'm like, this is okay.
They needed to retool, apparently.
Yeah.
They're taking it down. They're not like canceled as much as they're retooling it.
It was a weird premise for that new Muppets show where it's like, it's the behind the scenes of like a late night talk show.
Yeah, I like that concept. I did not like that execution. But
it was they did get some cool guests on there, like guys who were obviously Muppet fans. I'm pretty sure Dave Grohl came back for a second.
Right, exactly. That's cool. But today's topic is not Muppets, but that's a really good idea. Today's topic, because Batman number 51 from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo came out this week today, and it kind of is towards the end. There's one more issue, 52.
But he's not going to be writing that.
Yes, but he's not doing it, so so we wanted to kind of like take a look back on a retrospective of the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo dynasty on Batman.
It really was.
It's a 51 issue strong series of stories and character development arcs, highs, lows, peaks and valleys, and just
probably the most. I mean, were they the only ones in all of 52 who wrote from the beginning to the end of their run?
I feel like they must be like some of the few who stuck with their title and were never pulled off of it by for anybody.
The chat is telling me I'm really blurry right now. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I was blurry last night. You can either have blurry Joel or robot Joel.
Yeah, we'll take blurry Joel. If it gets so blurry that it's unusable, I'll just throw up some self-promotion there and get rid of you. But
you see, the thing is that it's like that thing on TV when you're making obscene hand gestures, and I'm just so obscene.
Yeah,
that
everything. We're not sure what he's gonna do, so we figure we just blur the whole thing.
Sal is protecting my identity right now.
Yeah, this is Joel. But yeah, this is a crazy, amazing run. It's funny because it's not unprecedented. I remember thinking about different runs with an artist-writer combo. The one I automatically think of is the Bendis Bagley Ultimate Spider-Man run, where they were like 150 issues or whatever.
Inseparable,
amazingly consistent run as well. But say what you will, or I'll say what I will about, like, in my opinions about certain story arcs from the Batman run.
And boy, have you.
Totally consistent run. Never has there been a moment where I'm like, oh, they really slacked off. Like, no, they were always working their asses off to make a hell of a book.
Hey, someone's actually at my front door right now. How about you talk to the audience?
Sure.
I'll be back in a second.
All right. So the fact is, you know, you might know us from ComicPOP as having certain strongly felt opinions or held opinions about one story arc or another, but the fact is, I've been reading this book since New 52 came out, and I remember when New 52 launched, they said, you know, here's the guys who are working on it, and I didn't know Scott Snyder from anything. I didn't really read anything of his before, and I had picked up Black Mirror after the fact, so I really had no experience with the writer at all, and I said, you know what, this is they keep touting this as the time to jump on board. So I went out to my comic shop, I picked up Batman #1 from the New 52 by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and I was like, holy crap, I am sold. And that first arc, that Court of Owls arc, was some of the best Batman comics I had read ever. And I mean, like, within a serialized in-continuity story arc in my lifetime. I mean, like, I was around during Nightfall, and I read all that stuff, and I read the period of Batman for stretches at a time that, you know, included arcs about the ventriloquist or Black Mask or Robin, Tim Drake, and stuff like that. But the fact is, this was the first and main Batman run that I was just like, I'm going to read this from start to finish, and amazingly enough, it kind of did come up with a start to finish, because which is a rare quality of serialized comic book in continuity Big Two runs, where it's like, well, who's picking up the next saga? And the fact is, like, you know, it's going to be so different after Snyder and Capullo are gone that you're going to be able to say, like, this is very... there was this run, and then there was this run, and they're totally different things. It's kind of really awesome. So, yeah. If you're just joining us, I just want to welcome you to the Elseworlds Exchange. Joel is going to be joining me in a few seconds, but we wanted to talk about a retrospective on the Snyder Capullo Batman run, just going over kind of the peaks and valleys and just the highs and lows and the amazing, incredible art and some of the new characters and new arcs and new ideas that were put forth that added to the Bat mythos from the New 52 into this new Rebirth era, which is kind of cool because Snyder's going to stick around, as it turns out. There was always some concern that after Snyder was done with this, that he was going to stop doing Batman. And I'm happy to say that that is not the case. And if you are sad or you're not familiar with what's happening with Rebirth, you can pick up Snyder's run on Batman. Unfortunately, sans Capullo in the All-Star Batman book from Rebirth. So with that, I believe my co-host Joel is about to join me. So
yeah, I am. You see, the thing about that is I live in a condo, so when I say I got to go to my front door, I mean I literally need to get in an elevator, go down, and go to my front door.
So what we wanted to do, I think, was let's just go from the beginning and just run through the arcs. You know what I mean?
Might as well. That would be the best time.
And this is actually, it's funny because the Batman Snyder Capullo run, the New 52 Batman, that's what it started as. I don't think we can even call it the New 52 Batman run anymore.
No, because it just was, and even then, a lot of what Snyder put into it was carryover from it was Detective Comics he wrote before, right? He had like the Black Mirror run that everyone remembers.
Yes.
I hold up as probably the best Dick Grayson Batman story.
It's funny, I did not read Black Mirror until...
Oh, you would like
it. Oh, no, I read it now. But not until after I'd picked up Snyder's run on Batman. Right. When I was like, okay, well, I'm going to read this dude's stuff. Has he written any other Batman stuff before? And people were like, oh, you got to read Black Mirror. And I'm like, okay. And I did. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So, yeah, that was the only other Snyder book that I had ever read before the New 52 Batman series. Of course, then you get into his indie books, and it's like, oh crap, this dude's really talented. But
I would say Snyder was at the forefront of kind of the horror writer explosion at DC. It feels like they tapped a bunch of different horror writers to do
absolutely
their books, and it ended up good. And the cool thing about Snyder is he got really popular, and he brought in a bunch of his students and his contemporaries like James Tynion IV and Marguerite Bennett, writers who we all love now and who got a foot in the door thanks to him.
Yeah, the dude not only ushered in a new era of Batman, but he ushered in a new era of authors as well, I think.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And that let's not, before we get into the arcs, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Greg Capullo, whose work I started on with Spawn.
Yeah, that's right. You're a Spawn guy, so you would have known about this dude even before everyone else.
I was a big Spawn guy. I read Spawn when it started, so I was there with McFarlane when McFarlane said, "I gotta stop. I don't have time. I gotta make action figures." He's like, "But don't worry, this dude Greg, he's gonna take over." I was like, "Okay, well, let's see what you got." And Greg Capullo is, for me, so much better. And stepped up the game for Spawn in such an unprecedented way. I was like, comics don't look like this.
The stuff he does with Shadow is amazing.
It's almost like Greg Capullo made Spawn look the way Image artists wanted their books to look. And like Liefeld, for example, he drew like all this these ripped people with pouches, and they just did amazing things without feet. And Greg Capullo just did it.
He made it work. He made that aesthetic work for him.
Yeah, the people were gritty, exaggerated, epic. They had muscles, or they were meek and timid, or they were scrawny, or beautiful or ugly.
He was born to draw the Violator.
Yeah, he was born to draw these demons and monsters, and he could draw a shrouded humanoid figure in a big old cape on top of a church like no other.
Ooh,
and
yes.
I remember seeing some of his work on Batman that was kind of almost fan based, and I'm like, this dude needs to draw Batman.
And it's funny to think at the start, I know I've listened to interviews with Capullo and Snyder, they didn't like each other at first, or at least there was a bit of animosity going on between them at first.
Thinking about that now, it's hard to imagine, since they're kind of like brothers in arms now.
God, yeah. I mean, you would have to for doing 51 issues over, 4 to 5 years.
It's true. Yeah.
To put into perspective, and I say this in my own review that will probably be up after this video, they've been writing and drawing Batman for as long as I've been talking about comics on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They started when we started, more or less, and it's kind of...
They were our Batman run.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it will be hailed as a seminal run.
I think people are going to...
I mean, yeah, people already talk about Court of Owls in the same wheelhouse as Killing Joke, Death in the Family. Like, they're talking about other stuff that I'm not too keen on, but still people love, like Endgame, 0 Year, that people are like, these are the runs that people will remember. And I can't argue that.
And it's funny to think, when you break down the run, you do kind of break it down into arcs. Like, everyone knows the name, Court of Owls, Endgame, Death of the Family.
Yeah.
But it really didn't run from event to event. They just felt like major events. Not all of them had tie-ins.
No, it's true. And I was so sold by the Snyder Capullo Dream Team. I don't read tie-ins. I hate them. I legitimately avoid them. And while people loved Night of Owls, I didn't have any interest and didn't even try to read it. And I don't feel like I missed out on anything.
First comic I reviewed online for Comic Book Cast back when I did. I'm pretty sure it was Batman #9, which was the kickoff to Night of Owls. That was like when I was really into it. I'm like, yo, it's not even worth just talking about on podcasts anymore. I need to actually get out there and review it. And that was the first one. I recorded that one in my garage, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I can believe it. I mean, like, well, yeah, you got to start in the garage. Otherwise, you won't be able to say.
I was such a punk rock comic reviewer.
Exactly.
My first comics in the garage, man.
I did in my garage, man. I remember when we started in our garage.
Back when it was real, not like today.
Yeah, one of our first episodes of Off the Rack was of Batman #1. And I remember being like, I know it's a little older, but we got to talk about it because this is where it all begins, ladies and gentlemen. And lo and behold, here's where we're getting off. Here's where we're getting off the ride. Although I will not be stopping off the Bat train because Tom King is the only writer that I could think of that makes me go, okay, I'm not even going to take a break. Like,
it was an interesting choice for King, and obviously one of the things about issue 51, which I will not spoil because it's new today.
Yes,
One of the things they did is there was a real conceited effort I could see to put all the toys back where he found him, more or less, for King to come in and play with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was just like, let's just say that they put a bow on it.
They do put a bow on it. There was maybe 2 things that they left open, which I wasn't crazy about. One is Alfred's child army from We Are Robin, but then again, I'm not reading We Are Robin, so maybe they explained it there. But even if they did, I don't give a crap because that book's gone anyway. That book's gone. Duke will remain, which is the only character I ever cared about anyway, and the only reason I even bothered picking up that book. That, and hey, the woman Bruce fell in love with when he lost his memory.
Yeah.
We don't get a goodbye with her. She just kind of fades.
Just, goodbye. That's how it is with every woman that Bruce Wayne loves.
It's true.
Because who could challenge Gotham? As
who could ever love a beast?
Yeah. So, all right, Court of Owls. There's nothing that can be said about Court of Owls that hasn't already been said. For me, it's a perfect run. It's a perfect story arc. It's a perfect Batman story. It raises the stakes. It pays homage to the past. It introduces new villains and plays with tropes and expectations in a way that only the most talented people can give this to you.
I could not agree more, and especially in this last issue. Again, I just finished recording my review not a minute before we started. The one word I would use to describe that final issue is symmetrical.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, no question. I mean, like, you know what's funny? We talk about it in our live episode of Off the Rack, which just aired yesterday, which was where we were like, I'm like, this book is coming out tomorrow. It's going to be awesome, and I guarantee you, it's just going to tie into everything all the way in the beginning.
So many callbacks.
Yep, exactly.
So many little things that you wouldn't even catch if you haven't been reading since issue 1.
Right? So Court of Owls is amazing. Even when they brought, and I don't think it's really spoiling anything to talk about some of these. We are going to spoil some of these arcs, but we will not spoil the new issue or even the ending to Super Heavy, because why wreck it? But the whole Thomas Wayne Jr. thing was for me like. I thought they were I always think they're going to raise the stakes and change the game even more than they do. But I remember when they said when they introduced Thomas Wayne Jr. and he was Owlman, and I didn't see it coming at all, despite the fact that there was a Court of Owls and that like there was going to be like an owl man in charge of it. I was so floored, and I said, you know what? This is going to be a really cool New 52 where there is no like Earth 2, like there's no like crime syndicate.
Right, where everyone just exists here. Obviously, they would go and do that anyway.
Then they were like, no, never mind. There actually is an Owlman who is a friend of Ultraman, and he's, I mean, not friends, but like a combatant with Ultraman and all his other.
They never called Thomas Wayne Jr. Owlman either, even though I totally called him Owlman in my review because that's what he is.
I called him Owlman immediately, and he even says like, I'm like you in the mirror, and I'm like, yes, you're the New 52 reboot version of Owlman. Like,
and Owlman was used so perfectly too in that story because he only comes in at the end.
Yep.
And, like, even if you thought Lincoln March was the bad guy, it's like, oh, but here's all this other stuff you didn't know about.
Exactly.
They do that. They also say, well, maybe he was actually being more manipulated than the court by he knew, or more than he knew he was, and maybe he turned against them and everything. It was just really well done and really a lot more deeper and complicated than you thought it was. And then other writers had to get their hands on him, and now he's a joke villain. After Robin Moore, Owlman, Lincoln March is a joke now.
Which really sucks, because when the stakes were set, Lincoln March / Owlman was, I think, one of the best new Batman villains created in the last, 5 years.
He was, and they should have left well enough alone. And they did leave well enough alone for, years until the end of Eternal when he's like, ha ha ha, I was the mystery villain here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I called that because Scott Snyder used literally every other villain, so it had to have been you.
Exactly. I liked him better than Hush when he was, between the two characters that were first introduced. I know they've done a lot of great things. Paul Dini, of course, who can't be matched,
Hush.
did great things with Hush, but when he was first created by Jeff Loeb, I'm like, screw Hush, he's stupid, this is lame.
He is kind of Hush-esque, and it is funny in Eternal. Owlman, Lincoln March is like, no, I manipulated Hush.
Yeah. That's how you can tell. That's how you can take me seriously, because I'm manipulating the manipulator. Fine, whatever. But that said, moving on from there, we have, what's the next couple of things. They were like, we gotta clean the palette. We can't just do another story arc.
And people forget about those in between issues because they just jump from issue to issue, event to event.
Yeah,
but there was stuff in between.
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, we also Snyder introduced us to James Tynion IV by working with him, by collaborating with him on annuals and other issues.
Right, the annuals that retold the origin story of Mr. Freeze and kind of made him a little less sympathetic by saying, no, Nora never actually existed. He was never actually married to Nora. He never knew her. He was just a stalkerish nut job.
Yeah, I hate that interpretation of Mr. Freeze.
I wasn't crazy about it either, but it looks like they're going back on that for All-Star Batman Robin now.
Good, fix it.
And he was barely a villain in the New 52.
Oh yeah, no, they never did anything with him. The next time you see him is in Death of the Family when Batman defeats him in half a panel.
I think he was also a villain in some Red Hood stories and some Birds of Prey stories.
Probably.
But I mean, really.
There's another cool story arc that I can't not a story arc, but just a single issue, and that's the thing that I was really, really impressed with was Snyder's refusal to just work within the trade paperback format.
Yeah,
and we're not just making books that you have to buy, that are going to be sold at Barnes and Noble. These are going to be stories, comics, you remember. And I remember one of them was Batman. I think it was number 12, which had Becky Cloonan on art. And that's the thing, is that whenever anybody filled in for Capullo, it was never a disappointment, despite the fact,
always worth it.
Despite the fact that Capullo was incredible, and for me will be one of the top Batman artists. It was whenever they were we're gonna give Greg a day off.
Yeah,
Let's
need some.
But they would get somebody like Becky Cloonan, or they'd get somebody like Jock, and it would just blow your fucking mind.
Are you thinking of the one I'm thinking of where Batman was going after that grave digging killer?
Yes, that was I think I think that was 34, and I think I remember the issue because I couldn't hype it up enough.
It was a really well done issue.
That is, for me, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it's worth repeating if you haven't already read it. Let me see if I can pull it up because it's so great.
It was Snyder tapping back on into his horror roots by telling him, hey, it doesn't always have to be a colorful supervillain.
No.
Sometimes it can just be a weird serial killer.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was Batman number 34. It was drawn by Jock, and it was done in one.
Yes, it was.
It
in a
is
time when we weren't getting many.
Oh no! And for me, that is unquestionably. Oh crap! That's right. Somebody in the chat just reminded me that Jerry Duggan helped write that issue.
Oh yeah, he did it. Man, Duggan's cool. I like Duggan.
And that is, for me, a perfect comic book. If you ever want to see a perfect single issue Batman story, you need to go no further than Batman number 34 from this run. Unbelievable.
I love the speech the killer gave at the end of that too, because I thought it was so beautifully Snyder's writing, where he's like, no, I don't want to be known. I don't want to have a name or a costume. I just want to kill in silence and in darkness forever.
Yep, and he's like, no, I'm gonna stick you in Joker's cell.
That was amazing.
Cool.
Where it's like, he's like, look, you don't want to be a nobody. Well, guess what? I'm gonna throw you in the most famous cell ever. How's that do you?
That's right. So then we had I think we jumped right into Death of the Family.
Yep.
And
it was so big, CNN talked about it.
Yeah.
I think the most popular videos I ever did when I was starting out was my reviews of those. Those were the ones that really got me noticed.
Yeah. That was, man, such a great freaking book. Such a great start for me.
Right. I know you've had your own issues with that one. You weren't crazy about it.
I wasn't crazy about it, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the beginning.
Which we're buttering up Snyder and we're filleting him too. I will say an issue that he has, and this is true across the board, he got better with it, but his penultimate issues were always better than his final issues. He's very like Game of Thrones in that regard. Like he blew his wad in the second to last one.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I should point out that actually Matteo Scalera drew the issue that we were talking about.
Either way, it was beautiful.
But Jock has also done fill-in issues as well, and they're amazing.
Jock did the one that ended up being important to the whole Mr. Bloom storyline, where you basically got the background of that character.
Right, after... Well, let's get into Mr. Bloom in a minute, but, like, Okay, so pulling those up again. Yeah, the Death of the Family, I think, started out so strong. And for me, just I don't even think it could live up to its own hype because it was so strong. And for me, the way in which Death of the Family started, it made me think. It made me immediately, because it's funny. You pick up Court of Owls, you're like, holy crap, New 52, I'm in. I'm sold. Moving on. Death of the Family made me regret New 52 immediately.
Did you now?
Because Death of the Family works within the confines of the Batman legacy. It only works if you have years,
a long history. Yeah.
And Snyder is clever enough to acknowledge the years of history, even when he's working within a world that Batman's only been in activity for 5 years.
Let's face it, Green Lantern and Batman didn't really reboot because they always consistently made money, so they got to stay more or less unchanged, even when they said we've only been active for 5 years.
Exactly. But yeah.
Oh no, all those epic stories you remember happened. They just happened in a 5-year window.
Yeah, they just happened like
5 years.
Yeah, they just happened like a week after each other. Like
so like Nightfall and all this other stuff just happened weeks apart.
Yeah, exactly. Like no, you can't. No, it only works if Batman has been working for so long. But in any case, it was. If you turn off your brain that cares about continuity, or the one that makes you think, well, how does it fit into the New 52? Like, if you forget all about that, it's really cool, and it builds and builds and builds.
Yeah.
And
the chat just reminded me too how much I loved the Gail Simone tie-in to that book with Batgirl facing this new Joker.
Such a great idea to get Gail Simone to do a tie-in for that, because like Gail Simone knows how to acknowledge the Batgirl history. Mm-hmm. She has a great respect for the Barbara Gordon character.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I was gonna say, I would say it was in that story. All the tie-ins to that were good.
Yeah, I would say that. Those are the ones where I actually went back and I was like, I looked through them. I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool.
Well, except for Red Hood and the Outlaws and Teen Titans, because Lobdell wrote those, and those are never good. But
nope,
hey,
you avoid those. But
they can't all be perfect. I really liked the Batgirl one, because it was like Joker doing like this perverse wedding setup where it's like he kidnapped Barbara Gordon's mother and made like this whole church thing. It was really disgusting and really hard to read, but really awesome at the same time.
That's actually the cover everyone always thinks of when they think of Death of the Family, and it's funny because it's from like a tie-in book.
Yeah, it's from a tie-in book, but it's a great cover.
But Death of the Family, it's a perfect length. It's a perfect kind of reimagining of the Joker character while paying respects to the previous version.
I like it too that, obviously we were at a height like Heath Ledger when that book came out, and Snyder's like, oh no, you think that's crazy? You think that's dark and twisted? He ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, I've been on record saying that I really did not like the face removal aspect of the Joker's character, and I still say that like the beginning of that, like when he faces the doll maker, and it's like, why did he do that? And like, it was kind of stupid. Snyder made it make sense in a world of crazy with a lunatic character like that. But did you need it? I don't know. I understand that the motivation for Joker is like, no, I did it to shock you. I did it to show you there's something wrong with how things are going.
I'm literally being a bad Andrew Dice Clay shock jock comedian. Look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm trying to get cheap laughs.
Yeah, he's trying to get cheap laughs by doing something perverse and bizarre. And it's like, right on, that makes sense. I get that. Like, I'm on board for that. For me, one of my favorite parts, I mean, like, there's so much that's so great, but Snyder and Capullo then do this really fun two-parter, which has Clayface as the bad guy.
That's right. Clearly Snyder and company have a love for Clayface, because Clayface is going to be coming back in the new Detective comics.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to hear that, because Clayface is such an underutilized villain.
Really is.
If done well, I mean, and I always point to this, but like, look at the animated series. Every pre-season 4 episode of Clayface is perfect.
Yeah, it is.
But that said, this two-parter is so fun. It's just Bruce Wayne, murderer. I'm like, we've seen that story before, but this is like
that was during the WTF month that they had going on.
Yeah, like, who'd have thought that? And it's like, it's funny because if you're an old school Batman fan, you see Bruce Wayne holding a gun, like pointing it at Commissioner Gordon, you're like, oh, well, obviously it's Clayface. But they play with that convention and make it work. Make it play to your expectations. It makes you go like, I've seen this before, but you're glad you did. Like, you're glad you were there. And that made me really, really satisfied. I was also like, thank God we didn't do like a 4-parter. Like another trade paperback selling issue. I'm sure it drove them nuts. Like, I don't know where the hell Batman numbers 19 and 20 fit in with all these trade paperbacks.
Yeah, really.
But hopefully they're somewhere, because they're worth reading. And if you haven't already, you should pick them up, because they
were fun. They were
totally
fun, and like you said, they were palate cleansers. And I think too, before we move on, another Scott Snyder invention that I'm sure we have to mention is, of course, Harper Row. Harper Row was invented. She was there literally since issue 1 in the background, and clearly he was thinking about this character, and her arc finally paid off at the end of Batman and Robin Eternal when she decides, you know what, I don't need to be a hero right now. I'm gonna go to school. Yeah,
that's really cool, and what a realistic portrayal of a character.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you're like, yeah, when you start, I mean, it's okay. Let's really quick talk about Death of the Family for a second, because I've talked about it before under episode of Back Issues, and I really reamed into it, but over time, you look back, you think about it, what was Snyder trying to say with Death of the Family through the Joker? Because there are a lot of people who love the Bat family. They love the fact there were 5 Robins. They love the fact that there's like he works with Huntress or Catwoman or the Justice League. Or there's a huge Bat network: Oracle, Batgirl, Batwoman. Sometimes, like, but everyone works. Talon sometimes.
Batman Inc. Sometimes.
Nightwing. Red Hood.
Batwing sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a huge network of Bat family members, and there are some folk that love the rich, huge team of Bat characters, and there's some who just want things to go back to basics.
It's true.
Where Batman just works by himself.
And to which I say to those people, that glory day that you're remembering where Batman worked alone, that was literally the first year and never again after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's cool actually. After they killed Jason Todd, Batman went into a dark place where he only worked alone, and he refused. And occasionally he would work with Nightwing, because like Nightwing's like, you are unhinged and you need help. And that was a really cool time to be reading Batman, because Batman was unhinged and he was taking risks, and he was like just miserable and angry and bitter. And in the culture outside the comics, everybody associates Batman with being a loner.
Yeah.
To the point where it's funny, I remember, like, even in the Hush story arc, which of course isn't Snyder and Capullo, but let's talk about that for a second. Catwoman makes a comment where she's like, you claim to be a loner, but you have a lot of strings.
Yeah, you got a real network going on.
And I'm like, that's fair. Like, that's a fair point to bring up. And I was wondering if Snyder was saying, like, with Death of the Family, he promised with the title itself a death to the Batman family. Not a single member of the family dies. No one quits. No one stops being those characters. No, we don't even have a metaphorical death. But what we do have is the collapsing of that network for about an issue or two.
Yeah, really.
And I don't know if that was just Snyder didn't have enough editorial pull to say no one used the Bat family in conjunction with Bruce Wayne for a while. But for whatever reason, it didn't stick, and the death of the family turned into more like a distrusting of the family, or a shattering of trust. Which is
they were a little distrustful for a minute.
Yeah, but maybe Snyder was trying to say, though, you might think you want a death to the family, but
you really don't.
You don't, and we're past that point now. You never will get that.
Well, hilariously, if you remember, a week after Death of the Family ended, it was the death of Damian.
Yeah, they killed Damian, and everyone had to come back to be I'm sorry, Damian's
have an issue to be sad about Damian.
Yep, crazy.
Which makes me wonder, did DC flip a coin on that? It's okay, we're going with Grant, we're going with Scott. Okay, Grant wins.
Yep, Grant always wins. I would love to know how that went on behind the scenes, where Grant's no,
you can't kill anyone in the Bat family. You can't kill anyone in the Bat family. I'm killing Damian.
Only I can kill Damian. I created him to kill him.
I'm gonna kill him, and then Peter Tomasi will bring him back.
They did a great story. Snyder and Capullo did that issue 18 where
R for Requiem, with Harper Row, interestingly enough, when Batman is acting angry and has a death wish, he's acting like the Frank Miller Batman.
He's acting like the Jim Aparo Batman. It's an amazing return. But for me, I was was Snyder trying to say that maybe Batman is cooler and better without the family, or was he saying that you only think that? And it's great when comics do that, when they deliberately subvert your expectations and go hey, think about this. Think about the title. It's not the title isn't just Batman versus Clayface. It's a story that matters, and the title is important. Even if the title is Batman, there's a subtitle in there that hopefully echoes the point or the theme or some kind of larger than life concept that the book is trying to portray.
Speaking of those Death of Damian tie-ins, the chat just reminded me there. Remember the Peter Tomasi one that was completely silent?
Yes. I love silent issues. I think they're mostly a gimmick, but I love to see when I love when they work.
When they're done right, when no words are necessary.
Yeah. And Batman has such a rich rogues gallery / family that there's so much color and beauty and acrobatics that you can do several silent issues without really much of a problem.
Oh yeah.
Then we get into Zero Year. Zero Year is, I think Snyder has said on record that it's the one he's the most proud of. The most amount of work and the most amount of balls were required to make it work.
Because how often do you get a chance to retell Batman's origin story, especially when no one else really got a 0 year thing to retell characters?
No, and the court of public opinion kind of responded to a lot of people's attempts to retcon. Even Grant Morrison himself, with his Action Comics run, people were no, that's kind of stupid.
We don't like this.
0 Year. Let's talk about the good, because you know what? If you want to know what I think about 0 Year, go watch our episode of Back Issues on 0 Year.
You went very deep into it. I think it would have been a perfect 10 out of 10 if they had ended it after that Red Hood one. Not to say I don't like the Riddler stuff that follows it, but there was such a good punch at the end of that Red Hood one. It's you couldn't top yourself at that point.
I think it should have ended with Dr. Death.
That
bone character that I guess they used in the Mr. Bloom stuff,
Dr. Death, who was the original supervillain, the first villain Batman ever fought.
First Batman supervillain. I was so excited by that. I loved the 0 Year costume. I loved the
costume. Nice callback.
The reimagining / callback of Batman's and the evolution of that costume as well. They changed the costume over time.
Made it really people cool. Complained about the purple gloves. I'm guys, he had purple gloves when he
started. But he only had them for a very little period of time, and they really got rid of those fast, and no one ever used them again. But we're in a weird time where people are nostalgic for things that they still remember. So there's really nostalgia's dead, and history is fluid, and so purple gloves can be made cool.
To bring it back to that new issue 51, there's a great joke in there where they mentioned that Batman's costume looks to have a piece of purple on it now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's new.
Well, the back of the whole like interior of his cape is purple, and he's like, "Is it?
Is it Riddler? Come closer and see."
Yeah, great. I will say, I gotta say, 0 Year is one of the best Riddler stories I've read.
It is, because Riddler is Scott Snyder's favorite villain, and this was his big Riddler piece.
It's hard to write for the Riddler. Even if I've never written for the Riddler, I know it's hard to write for the Riddler.
Even the Batman the Animated Series people said they hate doing Riddler stories because they always ended up too long, too complicated, and too weird.
But what's funny is they're always perfect.
Yeah.
There's
If
so
you're
much
so
good.
smart, why aren't you rich?
That was his first appearance, and perfect. The Riddler's Reform is one of my
Another
favorite
good
ones
one
as well.
One of the best endings at the end of Riddler's Reform.
Oh my god, that is perfect.
Very Hush-esque in a way.
Yes, there's a great Batman Adventures, which is the comic book version of the Batman Animated Series book.
Dan Slott wrote about it.
Yes, he did.
Those, didn't he?
I believe he did. And they did a Riddler story in which it's very similar to the Riddler's Reform, but basically Riddler decides, like, I'm gonna do one last, like, hurrah and
One
attack.
last heist and I'm out of the business.
Right. Well, it's like, if I don't stump Batman, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
I'm a quit.
Yeah, or kill myself or whatever.
Yeah. A la Kraven the Hunter. This
Exactly.
is Riddler's last hunt.
I would, that'd be okay. I love that moment and it was genuine. Like, the Riddler stuff from the cartoon show and Riddler in 0 Year are better than, like, fake, crappy, like, this is like in Hush. Riddler's inclusion in Hush, for me, like, people are like, this is the biggest moment in Riddler's history, and it's like, probably, but it's not earned, because it was just a Deus Ex Machina, like, where you're like, oh, and by the way, Riddler was in charge of everything, and he had like and he had a tumor, like, just like everybody
the whole time. You didn't know.
But that issue of Batman's amazing, because at the end of it, like, he's stumped Batman, and Batman eventually defeats him. Like, he shows up and he's like, how did you figure it out? And Batman's like, I didn't, I guessed. And Riddler is just like, that means that I won. And he just gives up. And he sings Happy Days Are Here Again throughout his arraignment and trial and prosecution and arrest and, like, and incarceration. And all the villains are like, shut up! And it's just perfect. I'm like, what a perfect depiction of that character.
I love the depiction of Arkham from the Batman the Animated Series,
Oh,
where it's like a summer camp for supervillains, where they're all just bunking together.
Yeah, they're friends. They know each other. They argue over what they're going to watch.
Joker and Poison Ivy argue over tea. She's like, I'm watching my gardening shows, but I want to watch cartoons.
Oh, my God. But getting
You know,
back...
Joker would be that guy who wants to watch cartoons.
Of course. But that said, Snyder hadn't done, or no one had done a Riddler story as epic and cool as the one that we got in 0 Year.
It's ironically, too, I think during his Detective Comics run, Snyder also did a Riddler was Reform-esque story where he became like a private detective for a bit.
Yeah, I love the idea. I loved that idea. The idea of Riddler being like, fuck it, maybe I'll try helping people for a change. And I like the idea that at the end he's like, nah, it's more fun to be a douche.
It's like, you know, in a post-Sherlock world, a guy who's super smart, super psychotic, and kind of a dickhead
Probably would hate everybody. Like,
yeah. I'm surprised they haven't tried to launch another Riddler solo. Just make it like Sherlock.
Yeah, I would read that. Maybe. Depends on who wrote it.
Just make it like Sherlock or make it like House, where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a D-bag, but I'm also the smartest guy in the room, so you have to like me.
Yeah, but I do like that Batman's just a little smarter.
Just a little bit smarter, always.
Which makes Riddler's character so much more rich and fun.
Eats at him every day knowing he's just a little bit smarter. Some other cool stuff from that 0 Year. Lucius Fox and Gordon got plenty to do in that
They
story.
sure did. They grew as characters. We got a great big background for them, and it was just really, really cool to see Gordon kind of rising through the ranks and being useful and cool. He has his own arc that is important and integral and very, like, disconnected from Batman. Which
They basically give him his own little Year 1 inside Year 0.
Exactly. You can't help but compare it to Year 1 because it is.
In many ways.
the-
They even lift probably the most iconic scene.
Yes.
They do their own take on it, but they lift it.
Which I think is just awful. But
Yeah, I know that was your big sticking point.
the Joker Red Hood gang, the Riddler, crap, like all of Gordon's stuff with the dogs and the coat, everything about that works.
Uncle Phil. I like that.
I hate
Batman
Uncle
had
Phil,
family
but
for a minute.
I don't like Uncle Phil.
You don't like Uncle Phil?
I'm just
I like this idea that Batman did have family at one point, but then obviously that went away later.
No. He can't have family. Otherwise, there's potential for happiness.
Not even for a minute there. Well, I always think that about guys who are defined by tragedy, like the Punisher was like, oh no, I lost my wife and kids. There's like didn't have any aunts or uncles or anything else he could lean on.
Yeah,
no one else
which
who
is
came
funny
to the
because
funeral.
even in the one that like that who cares if people don't like it? I liked it. The Tom Jane one. They're like, no, they killed his family.
It's like that Simpsons bit. They killed everybody.
Yeah.
Now it was a family reunion.
Yeah, it was a family reunion. They killed everybody. He literally, his second cousin is dead. Like
Twice removed.
Yeah. But then we got a quick palate cleanser in my favorite Batman's issue of all time, and then we go right into Endgame.
Yeah.
Endgame.
The big return of the Joker.
The big return of the Joker.
I like they wait to the end to be like, no, it's a return of the Joker story.
Yes. It's funny because Joker is basically in all of those stories. Like, he's not in Court of Owls, thank God.
You didn't see him, but he was, because there was a great annual written by Marguerite Bennett in there somewhere, too.
Yes.
The first issue we ever got to see her, where she basically tells a Joker story without really telling a Joker story.
That's true. I also loved, by the way, there was a great moment for me where, like, because Court of Owls is so cool, and it's a new villain, and it's, like, Batman in a desperate, like, forced, ridiculous place, and it's
in a desperate cockfight, as Ron Burgundy would say.
Right, it's super cool, and he barely makes it out alive, and then Joker's like, "Hey, I'm back," and he's so upset. He's like, I remember the line where he's like, "You couldn't even handle a nest of owls.
You couldn't even handle the Eyes Wide Shut crew."
And it's like, that's cool. Like, I like Joker. I like that Joker feels he's elevated. Like, Joker knows that he's everyone's favorite villain.
I'm the best.
And he's just like, you couldn't even handle these new guys. Who cares? Like, they're just rich assholes with masks. Like, how could you lose to these people? Like, obviously it's because you have like 9 Robins and you call people all the time. You got 2 fucking Alfreds now. Like, come on.
You're getting too weighed down, bro.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the old times when it was just you and me.
Yeah, I love that. I was like, yes, but that's funny because then you're like, for me, I was like, yeah, Joker, I agree. Let's bring this back to basics.
Sal was on Team Joker.
I was on Team Joker, but
I just imagine Sal with clown makeup. What are we gonna do now, boss?
Yeah, what do we do now, Joker? No, I would never join the Joker's team, even if I believed in him, because I'd be like, nope, he's gonna kill me. I'll die.
That's always the rule. I remember when the Arkham City games came out and everyone had their own gangs. It's like, ooh, which gang would you join? Would you join the Joker gang, the Two-Face gang, the Penguin gang?
Yeah, not Joker's gang, because he'll just kill us.
You always join Penguin's gang, because at least you know he pays you on time, probably, and you get to wear a suit.
Exactly. There's the air of legitimacy with the Penguin's gang.
Absolutely. I mean, Two-Face is okay, but again, Two-Face, he got the problem. It's like, do I kill you today? Coin flip? Yep.
Nope. Endgame starts off in a great WTF moment where he's like, let's do Tower of Babel plus New 52 Justice League, and just throw the Justice League as Batman, and Batman is forced to use his new contingencies against them. Really, really cool. And then, of course, the gut punch at the end of part 2 where you're like, it's the Joker. And
it's funny, too, that issue where it's like, oh no, a Joker plague is going all throughout Gotham. And then if you were reading Justice League at the same time, oh no, an Amazo plague is going throughout the world. And I'm like, man, you guys really couldn't have worked out these 2 stories,
right?
2 plagues in 2 comics.
No, we could not. No, we refused to do that.
We refused. We couldn't play nice with each other.
Yeah, that kills me every time.
It's also a little Joker's last laugh too, because everyone in the city is getting Jokerized.
Yes. Endgame kicked off really well. Really cool reveals, really cool moments. I don't know if it lived up to the hype. I think
I know we keep getting asked questions. It's like, so is the Joker immortal? So is the Joker like an immortal? No, he was no.
Yeah. In Endgame, no. In Endgame, he is not a god. He is a guy who had access to like proto-Lazarus Pit bullshit, made-up crap. That's the thing that I hate the most.
Dionysium.
I hate Dionysium. I hate the
healing
golden
stitch.
the healing, the cloth. I hate the golden Batbot like information like thing. Just it makes me so frustrated when they literally have a built-in machine that solves the problem. Like, use continuity.
It felt very
story.
Grant Morrison-y, didn't it?
The Batman robot like memories thing was for me the most Grant Morrison-y. But like Dionysium is just for me it's the laziest thing you could possibly do.
We found a new element.
Yes. That's my one gripe about Iron Man 2 is that it's like we didn't have an element, we invented a new one.
We invented a new element. Well, it's like the whole Bat computer with the memories, the instant Batman, the easy bake Batman robot.
Yeah.
You can't say they didn't foreshadow that because they did. They just foreshadowed it in that terrible Future's End book.
Exactly. No, yeah, the writing was on the wall. There was nothing really surprising about most of what we got.
That being said, you got to respect Snyder to being like, "Ooh, I can reinvent any Batman villain and make them cool. I'm going to use Crazy Quilt to be the linchpin of my new story."
That was cool. That was a cool moment. I remember being like, "Wow, way to fucking reach into the toy chest."
I've heard him joke about that in interviews where it's like, "Yeah, I think I want to do Crazy Quilt yet next. I just don't know what I'm going to do with him. Maybe his quilt is made of babies or something. I don't know. Maybe that'll make him scary."
Would you like that? People are like, no, that's obvious and lazy.
I think I'm quoting a Kevin Smith interview he did, like he was talking to him and saying like, "Yeah, I'll be at my kid's soccer game and I'll be texting Greg and be like, so Greg, what do you think of a cloak made of babies or Joker's face he wears as a mask?"
Yeah, exactly.
Good goal, son.
Yeah, no. Then we kill Batman and replace him with Jim Gordon and get Super Heavy.
Which is a run that I thought never lived up to its full potential.
No way.
Looking back on it now, I think Tomasi had more fun with that in Detective Comics by turning that into basically a Gotham Central book, wherein their commissioner is Batman.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. There's a lot of really, really cool ideas in Super Heavy that never quite either get off the ground or are allowed.
Or you feel they got cut off too soon. Like, I liked the idea of like, hey, let's have a Batman with checks and balances. Let's have a corporate authority Batman.
Yeah.
That never really got
That never like he immediately is butting heads with the
Powers Corporation.
Yeah.
Well, I kept thinking the Powers Corporation was going to be evil and they created Mr. Bloom, but no.
No. We also thought that like Julia was Mr. Bloom.
Because she had floral wallpaper and floral shower curtains
and floral tattoos, and you're like, okay, here it comes, and it never does, and you're like, okay.
It ended up being the least likely person, which I guess is a good mystery if it's the least likely person, and they tie it into the special Azzarello issue that they did.
Yes, that's really cool. Yeah, that was what was it, issue 44.
Another thing we haven't mentioned about the Snyder run, and it's something that informs so much of his work, he loves architecture.
Oh my god. Every beginning of every story arc, we get a little history lesson about like either the sewers of Gotham or the towers of Gotham or the architecture of Gotham.
And he makes it part of the city, where it's like you can tell a lot of a city about its architecture, those who lived here, those who built it.
Yep, and it always parallels what the story's going to be about, and it always echoes what the story what the central conflict's going to be.
I think the height of that has to be at the end of Zero Year, when Batman, to bring power back to the city, to bring the city back to life, he must join his own heartbeat with the city, to where Batman and the city beat as one.
Yeah. A little on the nose.
A little bit, but I like cheese like that.
I mean, like, I like it when it's... I like it when it's earned. I think by that point, I would have liked it more if I wasn't grueling through Zero Year. Because Zero Year never stopped. And
no, it did. It went on for a long time. Zero Year lasted a year. Like an actual real year reading it.
And I get, like, here's the thing. We had already started in such a great new place.
And to go back felt a little like, really?
Yeah, like, we don't need to know what happened in the past. Like, we don't need all that. Like, and if you want to do that, do it as a supplement. Do it as a story arc with somebody else, which is ironic for me because I think Capullo's best work is in Zero Year. I think some of his best stuff is
beautiful book. When Batman falls into the pit and there's the 2 lions there,
oh
he's
my
ready to
God.
throw down with 2 lions. It's an amazing panel.
Or when Batman tied all the bad guys together into his own makeshift bat signal.
That's pretty good. Or when they recreate the classic Detective Comics cover with him swinging on
Exactly. No, Capullo crushes every issue of this book. With reckless abandon, and it's
Riddler in the
Riddler.
in the astronomy place and all the lights.
Riddler looks
going
so
up.
cool. Like there's so
He
much.
never looked better.
Yeah, they're really cool like designs in there, and so we go from super heavy into like the wrap up where Batman returns and whatever. And if you haven't already checked it out, Batman number 51 is on sale right now. You can go to your comic book store or on Comixology to go pick it up. It's really really cool and really great. With that in mind. So, what are your favorite moments from this run? I'm sad to see it go. Yeah. I'm excited to see where it's headed with the new guard.
I think they ended it in a good place. This is a comic where I can say they never had a bad issue during the whole run, and it's hands down the most consistent from start to finish of anyone in the New 52.
Yeah.
Man, picking a single thing I liked, man, that's difficult.
Oh no, I just mean like moments and like what was your favorite arc? What was your favorite arc?
I know we're just trying to pick one. Man, I mean, I guess Court of Owls will always have a special place in my heart because that's where I started, you know?
Yeah.
I'll always feel a kinship with that story. That was the one that made me excited about the New 52 and being like, man, if all the other books could be as good as this.
Yeah. That was... Court of Owls gave me hope, and Death of the Family gave me, like, nostalgia, but also, like, hope that was going to be, like, almost like a perfect marriage of nostalgia and newness.
Actually,
like,
I thought of it. I thought
nostalgia.
It actually is from Death of the Family. I like that nostalgia.
Thank you.
Hashtag that.
Hashtag nostalgia.
Hashtag nostalgia. The bit I like, it's the penultimate issue of Death of the Family, which again, as I said, I think all of his penultimate issues were better than his finale.
Oh, easily. Oh, no question.
When Batman goes to Arkham Asylum and Joker has it all tricked out and all messed up, and there's like a flaming horse that comes running at him. Oh my god.
Yes, the moment where Batman goes to Arkham to face the Joker, and Joker has taken all of his rogues and thrown them at Batman, and Batman picks them all apart.
To make like a sick tableau out of them, yeah.
So perfect. Like, there's so much crazy, cool shit. I feel like that really is... Yeah, the penultimate issue of Death of the Family is so great. Until we get to the sequence where the family has their faces in their like in front of them.
Which is a bit of a fake out. Well, it is.
That moment I was like, no. I remember when they lift off the face, I'm like, no.
Here's the thing. Someone leaked me a copy of that issue, actually, when I was reviewing it, so I got to read it before anyone else, and I can remember sitting alone at, like, midnight, reading that part, where I'm like, no, they didn't. They couldn't possibly have done that and gone through their faces.
Yeah.
And then I read to the end, and what happened, I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this with someone, but I can't, because I'm not technically supposed to have the comic.
Yeah. It looks... It was such an amazing moment where it all just builds to everything. And
then they have a Sherlock Holmes moment. They have their Reichenbach Falls moment where Joker falls over the edge.
Well, that's the thing. They give you what they promised. At the end of that, they start off and they're like, you know, what you want is Batman v Joker in, like, alone. And it ends with that. And I love that moment. I remember somebody was arguing with me on Twitter. They were like, yeah, but doesn't Batman, like, in Justice League, doesn't Batman already know Joker's name? And I'm like, no.
Supposedly.
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
he's faking him out. Like, that moment where they're on the cliffside and he's like, I figured you out long ago and I know your real name and here it is. And he whispers in his ear and then he just joy buzzes his mouth. I'm like, no, he doesn't know the name. He knows that Joker's afraid of that and he won't, like, and he's pushing him.
The truth is so toxic to him.
Yeah,
He'd rather
I love
fall
that.
over the edge than hear it.
I do love that. For me, I love that moment where in Justice League by Jeff Johns where Batman gets on the chair. All right, let's test it. Who killed my parents? Yep, that's right. Who's the Joker? Like,
that was the second one.
Like, all right, I'm done. I know it's cheating. I know that I shouldn't be using the Game Genie here, but please, I'm sick of it. Who is the Joker? Please. I'm never going to get... I know that someone is going to kick me off this fucking chair. I need to know.
I like this idea that the Mobius chair is just the biggest Game Genie of all time.
Yeah.
You're just playing with all the cheats turned on.
Exactly. I think that's so funny. I'm just like, yes, how cool. And then of course they were like, yeah, and maybe he's like God, or he's a god, or he's like
he's Cthulhu. He is an old one.
like no. And then they did that with Endgame, where he's like, maybe I've been around forever. And that moment, I loved that image of the Joker during Endgame from the photo.
That was a cool image.
Like the old photo where he's like, he's been there for like 100 years, and you're like, no.
Yeah, I didn't believe that for a second. Although Rob strongly believed that. Remember, he was like tying that together with some stuff they said in Justice League. He's like, nah, man, Joker's the god of laughter, man. It's gonna happen. You wait.
Oh yeah, nope.
No, it didn't happen. Although apparently in Rebirth we are gonna learn his name.
Yeah, yippee. I mean, like the fact is,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and like they shouldn't make it his real name, but. They should, before Rebirth, like, do it all before Rebirth, so that when you do Rebirth, you can say, like, oh, no, that was just part of that one story.
Especially when he has so many fun aliases, like Joseph Kerr or Jack Napier, even.
Yeah, I like that.
Wouldn't that be hilarious to make that movie canon and be like, yeah, his name's Jack Napier?
Oh, my God. No!
Just to bring it back to Batman 89.
Yeah.
I like in Batman the Animated Series, they say Jack Napier once and then never again.
They sure do. They sure do. Early on. They're like, yeah, right? That's what it was. Wait, that was just the movie? Oh.
Oops.
Whoops.
I mean, we owe everything to that movie.
It's true. The music, the look, the success, the people, the fact that people like wanted one in the first place.
The neo-1950s-ish.
Yes. Is there a single moment from the Snyder Capullo run that is the coolest looking? What's your favorite Capullo drawn? Or let's just go with covers. What's your favorite Capullo cover?
Oh, God. Gonna hold my feet to the fire on this
right?
one. They were all so good. They were all so amazing. I gotta look at them right now. Batman New 52 covers.
Yeah.
I mean...
For me, like, some of my favorite ones are actually the 0-year covers, because it's literally just it's Batman becoming Batman. It's just like putting on a glove or pouring the symbol or the cowl.
I mean, that #1 issue definitely looks like a #1 where he's fighting all the inmates and they're all coming up after him. And he's just like, no, get down there. No.
Yeah, get down. No, I gotta. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that's a tough question. Even while I'm thinking about it, like,
I mean, the one where he's in the maze and he's all broken and bloody and a talon is coming at him.
Yeah, him turning into an owl. Yeah, him transforming into an owl is it was one of my top favorites.
They love their body horror. The one from Death of the Family too, when it's Joker sitting at the computer and you're seeing him from behind and he's got all these. It looks like a jigsaw thing and he's wearing the Joe's Garage coveralls and everything. I love that was the look for Joker. Nah, man, coveralls.
I remember that was they were like, that's the new look. The look is Joker's gonna have no face and he's gonna be wearing a jumpsuit. And I'm like,
I kept waiting for the reveal because it said Joe's Garage on the back.
Yeah,
I kept waiting for that to mean something like, oh, that was Joe Chill's garage.
Right?
That was like what his kids opened or something.
No.
No, nothing. I kept waiting. I'm like, nah, man, Joe's Garage. That's gonna mean something. That's gonna mean a thing.
Yeah. The funny thing is, for me, I don't know what my favorite is, but I will say that they are very reminiscent of Spawn covers, like Batman #11, where he's flying out of like fire bats, and you're like, what? Cool. That's pretty cool. What's your favorite moment? Like what's the moment that made you go, holy fucking crap?
That's not the Flaming Horse.
Okay, yeah, like you can pick the Flaming Horse if you want to.
The Flaming Horse is pretty amazing. Again, the big reveal of Lincoln March and who he was and what that meant and everything. I know that happened early on, but that was a really hard one to top. Or another good one, just to keep it nice and recent and keeping it very good with a recent movie that came out. It's when he's fighting Superman in midair. He's defeated everyone else just by the skin of his teeth, and he's fighting Superman, and he's like, who wins when we fight? Nobody.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's an excellent line, and I wish more people would know that. It's like, no, Batman and Superman fighting shouldn't be a good thing. When they fight, no one wins.
It's right. I completely agree with that. For me, one of my favorite moments has to be they're almost the same moment, and it's 3 of them, and they're all from Court of Owls, and it's when we got one of them where he has passed the point of exhaustion. He's in the labyrinth. And he's being messed with by the Talon, and he says, like, did you know, like, that we were here, blah blah blah. And he goes, all I know is I am sick to death of owls. and he just blasts him through the wall.
That's good.
There's that. There's also, of course, Batman in that crazy, like, Iron Forge armor, and he just goes, "Get the hell out of my house!"
Get out of my house.
I'm like, yes.
That's good. I also really like the bit at the end of Court of Owls where he's talking to Dick, because Dick, they kind of rewrote his origin with Haley Circus, and he says, Dick, you may have thought I saved you from a horrible fate that night by taking you in and making you Robin, but the truth is, you saved me.
Yeah. And he's like,
I love
that. Like, and even Dick's like, yeah, right.
That's sweet. I'll forgive you for backhanding me to knock my tooth out earlier.
Yeah, knocking my tooth out. You could have just said, there's a freaking tooth in
thing
there.
On your tooth. Can I have a look at it?
Yeah, no.
You didn't have to backhand me, Batman.
There's for me, it's funny, one of my least favorite moments, and it's not even like a narrative thing, it's just, I hated Alfred losing his hand.
But hey, we know what happened there, didn't we?
We sure do. But just when they kept referring to it, I'm like, ugh.
I hate the idea that Alfred started a child army after that, and they never went back to that.
Yeah, what the hell?
You would think Batman would have words for that.
I guess, what is it? Duke is your favorite Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman creation?
I think
creation?
I think Harper Row had a better run. I think she had a better arc than Duke, because Duke is still ongoing, is the thing. Duke is coming back for Action Comics. We're not going to be losing Duke anytime
No, it's true.
Soon.
Yeah. I think the Court of Owls, in general, is my favorite creation.
They're definitely going to maintain. Like, the second they came, like, yep, these are new Batman villains.
Yeah, once they created them, I'm like, I am watching history in the making. Nice job.
They've been so poorly served in stories not written by Scott Snyder, Robin War, and also in the movie Batman vs. Robin.
Oh my god. Yeah.
They've just been butchered outside of the comics.
It's weird. It's funny, like, a lot of the new stuff that's being created, like, no one's doing anything with Alfred's daughter, and nobody's doing anything with Harper Row, really. Nobody's really doing anything.
They wrote her an end to her story. Julia, we don't know where Julia is.
Julia she actually existed before. She was a character in the original Batman arc.
Was she really? They brought her back.
And they reinvented her, but, like, yeah, she used to exist as well. But
Julia, who got most of her big character stuff done in Batman and Robin Eternal, where she.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about Julia Pennyworth?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, never mind. She did not exist. I'm talking about. I thought Julia was the name of the girlfriend.
Oh, that was Jules.
Jules. Yeah. No, she existed, but no, Alfred's daughter did not exist.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I don't like that character. The Alfred daughter character. I am very much against that character.
Yeah, we had that conversation. You weren't nuts about her because you thought she was just another Alfred.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't need that. No, I'm like, for a person who sympathized with the Joker having a problem with there being, like, all these freaking, like, Robins and birds and members of the Bat family, like, I'm like. And we're gonna add more. We got more Alfreds too. Like, come on.
Hey, she was a super spy in her own right, and she never wanted to put the costume on.
Right, but she didn't need to exist. Is my point. She was an invention that someone had. It was not like she really did exist, and they, like, needed to do something with her.
It's nice to know Alfred has some family outside Batman, somebody he can talk to about stuff.
No, Alfred has no family. The point is that Alfred and Batman are alone. All they have is each other. No!
I like the idea that maybe Alfred can have tea with someone someday and be like, man, friggin' work's kicking my ass.
Yeah, he has tea with somebody named Wayne. Like, or Kelly. Like, he...
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think she ever appeared in a Snyder Capullo book, but what the hell ever happened with the Carrie Kelly New 52 character?
She was in the Tomasi stuff. She was also part of the WTF month is what they did.
Yep.
She showed up, hey, I was a tutor of Damien, and everyone just unanimously said no.
Yeah.
We refuse Carrie Kelly in this universe.
Yeah.
Don't make her canon, and then she just rode off, never to be seen again.
Yeah. So, from there, you guys, that was kind of our retrospective on the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. Do you have any final thoughts you want to just kind of, like, espouse? Like, boy, this was a crazy run. What's your farewell to those two?
It sure was, I mean, that's the thing about comics, is as much as we love it and as much as these runs are legendary and go on forever, they'll always live in our hearts. That they'll always be there, despite the fact that one day they may be retconned, referred to, redone, or whatever. They will always be there in that form. Should you want to read them and enjoy them, and it's not even like Scott Snyder's leaving Batman behind or anything, because he's going to be doing his own All-Star Batman very soon.
Yeah. I was really expecting Snyder to leave Batman and do like a whole bunch of indie stuff.
Nope. He's got the Bat bug.
Yeah, I mean, like, fair enough, but I'm worried about it. I think it's going to be cool, but I'm worried about it. And the reason I'm worried about it is because Snyder's run is so hailed. It's so celebrated. It's so great.
How do you follow that?
Not only how do you follow it, but how do you follow it while it's also still going on? You might have a Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno situation going on, where like people are like, well, I gotta buy one of them, and I'm either gonna buy like the main Bat title or gonna buy Batman or Scott Snyder's Bat title.
Do I buy the guy I trust and know has a track record, or do I take a chance on this new guy?
Yeah, I say take a chance because Vision is amazing.
I keep hearing great things about Vision. I know I love Tom King's work on Grayson. In fact, now that him and Celia are off that book, it sucks they couldn't see that book to its conclusion.
Yeah. I think
that book is considerably weaker without those two at the helm.
There's a lot of Rebirth titles that I want to get. I think I might have to check out Snyder's All-Star Batman in conjunction with Tom King's.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure they're going to be.
It's our job to. We could write it off.
Exactly.
You're like, no, this was work.
Yeah. So there you have it, everybody. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo changed the Bat game with their thunderous arrival on the Bat title. Made a lot of us give a crap about this character after some really esoteric weirdo stuff that people celebrated and loved as well. People loved Grant Morrison stuff. I remember when Grant Morrison jumped onto Batman. I'm like, cool, new writer, everybody loves them. I'm gonna buy it. Picked it up. Damien was invented. I said goodbye and.
Hey, there was good stuff after.
Occasionally, I would pop in and I'd be like, "Oh, you're talking about like mythology, and you're having characters say ridiculous things for the reasons that you believe in that have nothing to do with narrative structure or story or characterization. So fine, I'm not gonna read it. Goodbye." But Snyder and Capullo kind of like street leveled out Batman a little bit, made him a little less larger than life, made him a guy, made him a human being, humanized him.
Yeah, definitely was returning him to his roots in a way after Grant Morrison was like, no, he's the eternal Batman is the thing. He's everything to all people.
Yeah, like, no, Grant, no. He's a guy.
He traveled through time, I tell you.
Yeah, you did that. That doesn't mean it we'll talk about Grant Morrison in the future, but for now, let's just land it on a happy note of Snyder and Capullo did some amazing shit, and like it or leave it. It was important, it was seminal, it was great, and it meant a lot of things. Things to all people. Their Batman was many things to many people.
Yeah,
worked really, really well, and it will be sorely missed. But you won't have to look far to get a Snyder Batman book in the near future.
You will get your fix.
But I am really sad to lose Capullo on Batman, and I know that he said that he's going to come back one day, but. Where is he going and what's he going to do?
Whatever it is, we'll be there.
Whatever it is, I'm going to check it out. I kind of want him to do just like solo Batman books or solo Bat-esque books.
Is he exclusive to DC right now?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I know Snyder's would be interested to see him jump over and be like, hey guys, I'm drawing Daredevil now.
Oh my god. I would read the crap out of a Greg Capullo Daredevil book.
That would be pretty.
Yeah. I would also like to... it'd be funny if Greg Capullo's like, you know what? I'm going to come back to Spawn.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be the conquering hero back at Image?
Hello. I'm going to draw your ridiculous dead guy character because I think Al's back, so might as well.
Have him jump over and be like, no, I've decided my new thing now is I'm going to draw Savage Dragon. Just pick a random character. I'm going to draw this now.
Yeah. Ugh.
But he'd make a great looking Savage Dragon.
I'd love to see Greg Capullo draw the Max.
Oh yeah.
That'd be cool. I'd love to see someone draw the Max who wasn't Sam Keith after issue 11. Because Sam Keith was like, I'm going to draw like, normal looking cool things. And it's just a really neat, like, quasi-esoteric, but still pretty grounded book. And then he was like, okay, and now that you've got you, blah! And I'm like, oh my God.
I know that new Moon Knight book already has its own art style thing it's going for, but imagine Capullo on Moon Knight.
Capullo Moon Knight would be amazing. Just because I see a lot of great suggestions, but for me, he's got to have a cape.
Yeah.
He's got to have a cape, and he's got to have access to tall buildings. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But thank you guys so much for watching this edition of the Elseworlds Exchange, and we'll see you guys next week with a whole new episode. If you are just joining us, or you are seeing this after the episode has gone live, let us know in the comment section down below your favorite arc from the Snyder Capullo Batman run and why. We'd love to know your opinion.
Moment, yeah.
And you know what? Screw that. Your favorite moment from the Snyder Capullo run. Just favorite.
I bet everyone's gonna have a different one.
Favorite holy crap mic drop moment from the whole story.
And there was many.
Yeah,
there was plenty we forgot.
There's plenty we haven't mentioned. There's plenty that we have, and there's plenty that don't necessarily involve owls. So let us know in the comments section down below. We'd love to hear your opinion. And we'll see you guys next time in an all new episode of the Elseworlds Exchange. I am Sal.
I am Joel.
Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.
Bye bye.